Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors Podcast, and this is episode number 87. Feeling like heaven as you get through Self-Tape May 2022. This episode, we've got Hayley O'Connor, Self-Tape May 2019 challenge winner. She is back to update us on how things have been. We discuss her going from 4 auditions a year to 40 auditions a year, how understanding story finally made her confident in all of her auditions, thank goodness. The hair journey. If you didn't listen to her last episode, the hair journey is real. And how to make workshops fun. All the time, not just that one time where you did a good job, but all of the time. Yay! Okay, Self-Tape May Challenge, 16 tapes, 31 days. Are you doing it? You've got 2 more weeks. I love it when people join at the end. Like when people are like, F it. Like suddenly I care about cuss words. Fuck it, I'm in, let's do it. I'm gonna start, I've got 2 weeks. I'm all in, Self-Tape May, let's do it. I love it when people do that. So if that's you, do it. 5 people have already finished, including first year Self-Tape May participant at Z Denardi, who did it while he was moving. Congrats to you, and congrats to Lauren Shopness, Self-Tape, Jillian, Ali Chef, Amber Wegner 777 for already being done. Pew, 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 pew. And you may ask, Audrey, how do you know how these people are finished? Well, because of our leaderboard. Europe and Northeast are finally on the leaderboard, as well as the newcomers from Singapore and San Francisco. Welcome, welcome, welcome. You can be on the leaderboard by logging in at selftapemay.com for free and updating. You just do a little click up how many tapes you've done so far. You gotta do it manually this year. We're not auto magic yet. Okay, you guys, there are hundreds of you already on the leaderboard and thousands of you looking at the leaderboard every day. And if you're enjoying the leaderboard, it is our friend Wes you have to thank. Wes has spent dozens of hours creating the leaderboard for free. He's even doing tech support for all of you for free while he's working at his real job and taking care of his very real wife and his especially real kids who are all sick at home. So be nice to him on tech support, and if you're enjoying the leaderboard at all, please go love bomb Wes on Instagram. He's at WGELPI, at WGelpy. Tell him how much you appreciate him. Tell him how cute his dogs are. I mean, his dogs, you guys, they're so amazing. Link to his Instagram is in the show notes for all of your love bombing desires. But more important than Wes, more important than the leaderboard, more important than anything ever, Witcher sides are coming in. There are 3 entire leaderboard pages of people doing Witcher sides. Oh my God. You guys, Jesse does a really good Witcher grunt. No joke. I'm going to shout out some of my favorites next week. So if you haven't done any Witcher sides, now is the time. If you need a little help with your Self-Tape May, you can check out our sponsors at selftapemay.com. If you need free sides or if you want more competition, go to castability.actor/selftapemay to get 20 free sides and a fun way to be seen by casting directors. If you need a reader, go to weaudition.com and use the promo code SELFTAPEMAY. Hayley herself is a reader on there, so you might even see her there. She's very good. I have used her and she's fantastic. If you need real auditions, if you're like, Audrey, I would like real auditions, go to castingnetworks.com/Audrey for $50 off your premium membership. How many auditions have I gotten from Casting Networks this month? Like a dozen. I've been getting so many. Thanks to my agents at SBV Talent. You're the best. But all that said, one final reminder. Everything you need truly is at Self-Tape May. The website, the leaderboard, the sides, the challenge itself, all of Self-Tape May, all of it is free. It will continue to be free. In addition to that, if you sign up at selftapemay.com for free, And if you make it to 16 tapes and log them on the website for free, you will automatically be entered to win the $1,000 prize package from our sponsors, and you'll get to be on the podcast. You are gonna come on the podcast just like Hayley for free. SelfTapeMay.com, it's free, it's Frizzo free, my favorite price, free. 2 more weeks, you can do it. Just do one. Just roll, just get the ball rolling. Just be like, hey, I want to do 1 tape for Self Tape May. Just 1 tape at a time. Take it 1 tape at a time. More reviews. The review baby is happy and healthy again, everyone. The light of your reviews is as mighty as the sun this week. The review baby barely even remembers the time that you almost didn't save them from the dark well. And now it's just like all listener love consuming their heart and mind space. Who saved the baby this time from the darkness with their blazing hot reviews? It's good people like Miss Elanius, Jenny Strauss, Tiffany Fajan, Tiffany Fajan, Lenny Grossman 66, Chidozi M. And our 1000th review on Apple Podcasts is SJ Joseph. I feel like we need fireworks. I feel like if there's a sound of like people getting hugged and like lots of kissy faces, that's the sound effects I want for this. SJ Joseph, you deserve a prize. Email us at audreyhelpsactors@gmail.com, and we are going to send you some Audrey Helps Actors swagalicious. Thank you all for taking care of our review baby. Just go to ratethispodcast.com/Audrey. That's ratethispodcast.com/Audrey on your phone or wherever you're listening to this on. The baby's like, please, I love your review, love. It just makes me so happy. www.ratethispodcast.com/Audrey. All right, I hope you're on your way to audition. A call back. Get it? Book it.
Audrey helps actors because they don't know anything.
Hi, everybody. I'm Audrey Moore with Audrey Helps Actors, and welcome back,
Hayley O'Connor.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm so glad that you came back to us after we had our 3rd Self-Tape May. I wanted to have some people back on who have done all 3 years, because I just think that's so fucking cool. And I know that everybody who's been doing that has really seen growth in their work, growth in terms of materials, understanding of their casting, all of that sort of stuff. And so I really wanted to check in with you, everyone who's listening for the first time. Hayley O'Connor is our first time Self-Tape May Challenge winner. She won through the random drawing that I do at the end of Self-Tape May. She came on, and the thing that people mostly take away from that episode is apparently a conversation about her hair, which we'll talk about. And,
yes, we will.
We'll get into it. Let's first give everyone the landscape, as I always like to start with, of are you repped? Are you union? How often do you audition a year? And I think for you, give me that landscape now, and then give me the landscape and what it looked like the first time you completed the challenge. So what has changed?
Okay. Right now, I am union. I am repped fully, I guess. And this has been my busiest year for theatrical auditions, and I've had 42 this year.
Amazing. 42 theatrical. So theatrically, I would say quality of these 42 auditions, how many of these 42 auditions would you say are like television credits that if you put them on your resume, people would recognize?
From this year, yeah, it was probably like 40 of them, maybe 39 of them. They were like good, real stuff. And in 2019, I had, I would say, 5 legitimate theatrical auditions.
Quite the increase. I know that when you and I met last time, the very possibility of you even getting that volume would have been crazy to you. You would have been like, I'm going to have a year where I have 40 theatrical, recognizable credit type of auditions, that's awesome. And 3 years, when you're sitting at the like beginning of the 3 years, 3 years always feels like forever. But then my experience is when I'm sitting at the end of those 3 years, that feels like, oh, that seems right. Like that seems like it took that amount of time and that seems probably appropriate.
Yeah, it was funny to me when you were like, hey, if you want to come back on. And I'm like, yeah, but what do I even have to talk about? But then I thought about, I really have worked personally, like on everything in these last 2 years because of the gift of sitting at home, really.
Right. I had a friend of mine who was talking to me. She recently got her shit together and she was like, it's just crazy how much I had to do just to get to the place where I feel like I can begin.
Yeah, it feels like that.
I think that's the biggest thing is like, everyone sort of like comes out here after school or whenever and is like, oh, and then I'm going to like book stuff. And then you're like, well, you need new headshots. And they're like, oh, I'll get those in like 2 weeks. And so often the people that are really good at what they do, they're impossible to get to. So like you want to get your headshots done, but the headshot photographer is booked up for 4 months. And then it's going to take you a month to get your photos back and then get them retouched and then get agents to reply to any emails and then get them online. It's like everything takes like 3 to 5 months longer than anyone thinks.
Yes.
And it's also really expensive in time, energy, and money.
Yes. And the time even adds up, like just on some of that business side materials stuff of like, you wait these 4 months to get in with whatever photographer, but maybe you didn't know what you really needed for headshots. And then you're like another several months behind of trying some bullshit. Yeah. So like, I would say for me, really, every part of how I work has changed. Definitely the acting side, that has been my like focus, but everything like preparing for my headshot session, totally different now. Like I worked on styling, everything's different. So
I love it. So when we met in 2019, you had just booked your first SAG commercial. You had to join the union because of it. You had at most maybe 5 legitimate theatrical auditions. Cut 2-3 self-tape Mays later, you have now a really great setup. You understand filming yourself. You're understanding story more and more and more. You're doing tons of workshops. You got, I think, really good representation who's now getting you these 42 theatrical auditions a year. You got your footage together. You got some looks together. And now you're really building, I think, on relationships is what it seems like to me. And I just want to sort of go on the math with everyone that like, you do have to have quality materials and you have those now. And then it is a trial and error process of like, where am I? Where am I? Where does it fit? Is it this? Is it that? And then all the while be building your skill set. And it feels like you've been doing that all along. So tell everyone, first of all, everyone wants to talk about the hair. So let's talk about the hair. So tell everyone about the hair journey.
Sure. That does feel like part of it too, in that like throughout this time, like, and I've had several headshot sessions because my hair has been growing. So I will say, yes, you told me, just to recap, that I looked like, it's very heavy was your word, which is very diplomatic of you, but also everyone knows that's a horrible word for hair. And also that I look like a lesbian mall walker mom. It's like, okay, that's a real image. The funny thing too is like, truly before that, I was just out of boredom thinking like, maybe I'll grow it back out. And like, we like change. Like, it's just boring to not be able to like really do anything with it when it's so short. So I'd been thinking about doing it. Then of course the pandemic happened. So I was like, well, this is the perfect opportunity to like get through all those frumpiest, like growing out of pixie cut stages. So I did. And now I am liking it. And I mean, it definitely changes a little bit some of the stuff I'm going out for. I was getting a lot of like non-binary stuff with the super short hair and not booking it. And I do think that's a combination of things. I think, yeah, people see short hair and think that's a really simple, like, slot you in there. Like, I'm getting a lot more like, I'm your cute friend, or like, I'm your weird coworker. I'm a mess. And I do like all of those things. Yeah, my headshots are better, I think, to me and how I am. And I really did work on that. So if you want to getting your shit together, A friend of mine, before she went to get headshots, she showed me her PowerPoint presentation she made about her looks. And I was like razzing her so much. And then we like went our separate ways and I couldn't let go of it. And I was like, yeah, I'm going to do that. Well, not like to make a presentation, but just to have a visual aid of like the looks I'm going for.
Well, and that is what they do in advertising.
Yes.
Like when you audition for commercials, they have storyboards for you to look at.
So that helps everyone. If you're struggling with headshots, I suggest it. But also just to communicate to the other people you're working with when you go to your headshots and not assuming like, oh, we've all seen every TV show and you know exactly the person I'm talking about. But I had like screenshots of what I thought was my type, what I was going for, the shows they were on. So we know like this one's moodier and this one's like happier or whatever. I think that helped a lot. And I did use Buckley to help me shop. She's wonderful. But even before I used her, I had already like, I think stepped up and like understood how to style myself a little better. Like I already had ideas going in that were like, yeah, this works. This says this. Like,
but let's think of that in terms of acting. If you're going to show up to rehearsal and you're going to just be like, hey, person, tell me how to do this. That's one way to go to rehearsal. Or you have a lot of ideas and points of view, yes, and you've really educated yourself on the scene and you've tried some things out and you've worked the scene out. And then you show up to rehearsal. That's a much higher level of collaboration. When you show up prepped to the best of your ability, other people can sort of join you at a higher level.
I had remembered in some older episode of the podcast, you said to somebody that you read before you got coached. You would read it through and work with someone, and then you would use your coach. And I remember at the time I was like, wow, that seems like, why bother?
Extraneous.
And just like this month or as of 2 months ago, oh, that's what I want to do for every single thing. I want to like go into my coaching session with my thing already prepped, which like sounds so obvious now that I'm saying it out loud, but really a huge difference. All over, I think I work differently than I ever have before, which is like early on, I really tried to do everything silently myself and then just wow them. I don't want anyone to see it beforehand. And, you know, it wasn't that good. So like, I want to hear the scene out with another human really is helping me a lot. It's helping me understand the scene, which is like embarrassing kind of to say because like, obviously you read a scene on a page and you get it, you know, like mostly you're like, I understand what's happening. And one of Amy Linden's things is like, watch the scene in your head, like cast someone else, like a known actor, and watch them do the scene. Like that helps. But like, so I think it's the same kind of thing for me of like, I want to hear the scene.
So in addition to working it out loud and hearing it with somebody, one thing I really like to do before the coach also is to just also kind of work on fucking camera shit, because I really don't want to wait till the coaching to notice that like, I thought I was going to put something down on this table here and then like have this reaction. And then the reaction is like completely gone. Even things like I would enter or where I'm putting my face for a certain moment or person. And if I wait and I don't do that before the coaching and then I coach and then I don't watch it until after, then I notice those things that really could have just cinematically been more effective if I had fixed those things before I met with the coach. So part of what I'm doing is I'm recording a take and then I'm going and watching it with the person just fucking sitting there on we audition. I'm like, I'll be right back, pause. And another thing that I love to give you as an option is during the actual rehearsal process, do what a rehearsal process is, which is like really try out different options. So like in making it personal, instead of being like, I'm going to get it right in this hour, it's like, I'm going to give myself an hour to experiment. And I'm going to try it when I'm like really moody. And I'm going to try it like really silly. And I'm going to try it with this person in mind who I really have a crush on. And then I'm going to try it with this person in mind who I'm kind of ambivalent on. And just like see how the story or moments might shift or move. And that gives me more information. I think a lot of actors, myself included at one point, like give themselves the time to like then go solve it or like to get it right, as opposed to thinking of it like this is called experimentation rehearsal time, what can I learn in this hour that I'm working it, and then go watch and see where does the story come through. What do I like? Because we're also fucking guessing all the time, too.
It is a good way of being really prepared for a workshop, probably especially when they have you bring your own material and they don't really know the material. And then they give you some like totally different way of doing the scene that you just deliver on then that way, right? Mm-hmm. And like, I don't know that I ever used to know how to do that. I thought I was taking notes, but again, like, and you did tell me you need to work on story.
You did.
I heard that from you. I've taken class with Amy Linden, and she used to say it in a way that like my ego couldn't hear, which was, it's a reading comprehension issue. I'm like, fuck you, I know how to read. Like I like my parents met at a library. I'm like a book nerd. I know how to fucking read. And like, that's not what it means, but I do think it's hard to articulate. I was just reading with someone on We Audition, and he had like heard the episode, and he knew who I was. And I was telling him I had a recent in-person callback and talking about how much like knowing story made me not nervous in the waiting room. I just wasn't.
It grounds you.
Yeah, it really does.
Actors forever have been people who showed up with like our feelings and our points of view, and then they directed the story. But now that things go so fast, and even in theater, they go so fast, they really need you to come with the story. And especially in self-tapes, no one's even really going to redirect you. So it's like you either got the story or you don't get the story. You don't even get somebody who says, hey, Audrey, I really like what you did. I think what's happening is maybe in the end, let's just try a little more defeated. I don't even have to know why. I can just literally yes and that shit. Yeah. And then I can do the exact same thing, but in the end be more defeated. That will solve the story for them. But because we don't get that anymore, you have to understand story. And it's a whole other bag. The more you're reading what's auditioning, the more you're watching what's airing, you sort of get context for things of like, oh, I see in a doctor show, there's always the leads who have a story arc, and then the patients are always sort of poking at the lead's story. And that helps you as that guest star understand what you need to do, because you need to poke at whatever that is and what that's relating to.
Yes, I had a crystallizing one recently that I just was working on, like a procedural scene that was packed with like stats, like jargon and stats, so much numbers. And me of the past would not have been able to solve this, because you get really hung up on getting all the numbers right, getting everything right. Like she's like telling someone like, all this, I think there's a serial killer in town. And the guy she's talking to is like, nah, it doesn't fit the profile. There's no serial killer in town. And then she gets defeated. But I could tell, I just was like, numbers don't really matter. Like, you want to be competent sounding or whatever.
Sure.
But like, the thing is to set up, she thinks there's a serial killer. He says, no, I think there's a serial killer in the episode, and she turns out to be right or whatever. Like, I just couldn't see that from reading it. But like, old me would have been like, oh my God, I said 6 and it was supposed to say 4.
I just love you're saying this so much, because I think that's just so common. And if you're a person and listening to this and you're like, I would focus on the numbers, and I know that I don't understand the other half of what Hayley just said, that just means you're in the vast majority. And if you're just letting a coach direct you, I have no trust that that coach knows story. And a lot of them do, a lot of them don't. And you don't know if you're just getting a coach that likes the way you emote in this scene more. And that could have literally nothing to do with the actual story or what's happening or the tone. They're just getting excited by getting you to be like a more available actor. And the only way to combat that is to start to figure out story yourself. It is, to me, like melts away all of the drama around it.
Yeah.
And gives me a sense of confidence. And also, I feel like helps me be an even greater asset on set, if you want to take it even further. Because I'm not worried about my drama. I'm not worried about ego. I'm not worried about anyone else's drama. I know, like, I'm here to help you get options to edit so that you can tell the story. And because I understand arcing story and what this scene is here for versus that scene, I know what my job is in each one and how that's uniquely different. And I have ideas about how to help a director and a cinematographer do that fully through my acting because I understand the story. So if anyone asks you, again, can you explain story? I would just say, it's like asking me to explain acting.
Yeah.
And just tell them it's a craft that takes years to understand. And that just like acting, once you start getting it, it just all becomes more fun. What have you done that has helped you to clarify it so that maybe everyone else who's in a place of like, oh, she keeps fucking talking about story and it makes me want to just chop my fucking face off. What are some things?
I was at the time and for a while after in Amy Linden's class and like watching other people, which I didn't used to do when they were in person because you could leave when you were done. And then on Zoom, which I think they still are, she wanted everyone to stay. So I was watching everybody. And hearing her direct people was helpful. Watching tons of TV, which I always did, but like even sometimes watching stuff that, you know, doesn't necessarily interest me or whatever, just to be like, oh, he's going to do X so that by the end of the episode, this will have happened. And like just like plotting it out. And some of them are very easy. Some aren't, like some take turns you couldn't imagine. But like there's a lot of story like predicting. And I do that. I am married and I'm sure my spouse loves me talking out loud.
It's horrible. I know. My husband ruins things in 3 fucking minutes for me. And I tell him, not out loud.
Some of them are so obvious when it's happening that you can't like, okay, we all see what's happening. And sometimes I want there to be more twists and there just aren't any twists. But
it's not the point.
I have been doing a ton this year. A focus was building my own relationships and doing a bunch of workshops. And I think especially in ones where they bring material for you, they understand story even if they're not saying it that way. And so watching them direct scenes for people that they were familiar with was helpful. Also, coaching all the time. It's no one thing, I don't think. And I had to like put the ego aside as well to be like, this is something I need to work on. Your episode about Finding Nemo did help. If you just take out like turtle surfer dude character and you just have those sides and that's what you're assigned, like, you know what his job is in the context of the whole movie and like why he's there and what he needs to do to get from A to B. Anyone in it, just peel out their little part and see where they fit.
And why that surfer casting is a very specific casting.
Yeah.
If you haven't listened to the Finding Nemo episode, please Google it. Please listen to it. If you're like, I need to understand story. And importantly, how it pertains to casting, please listen to that. And I just want to wrap up this topic by saying that I really find that the art of auditioning and how it's different currently than the art of acting is the art of acting is about like, am I present? Am I listening? Do I have impulses that I can express? Is my body facile? That the art of auditioning is taking those acting skills and also understanding the story and then yourself in the story. So that if I auditioned for surfer parent turtle, 200 years old, I would have to ask myself, well, like, A, why did casting ever bring me in for this chill person? And B, well, what does Audrey bring that can help solve the story? Because the important part of the story is actually that that turtle is the antithesis of Marlin. So what can Audrey bring that may even be different than how they wrote it, that can be the antithesis of Marlin in an important and impactful way? And that's the art of auditioning.
So I did want to say I did a lot of workshops this year, and for the first time ever got auditions after those workshops with those people. So I spent over $3,000 doing workshops this year.
In 1 year?
Yes. 7 times I got called in after, and 3 of them repeatedly called me in. So to me, I think 3 relationships were made, you know, like.
I wouldn't agree with that.
No?
I mean, no, because it's your first year really going at it like this. And you really have to do this for like 3 years because one co-star is $1,100
yes.
for the shoot. If it airs again on network television, you'll get another check for $1,100. If it airs again, you usually get a check for like $350 a couple of times. So essentially, if you book one co-star in like a year, then you'll pay for your year of workshops. If you do workshops for 3 years, and then in the third year you book 3 different co-stars, you'll pay for the 3 years of workshops, which is usually more how it works, because you book one and then your agent can call and say, I've got this girl, Hayley O'Connor. She just booked blah, blah, blah. I think she's really great for this role, similar to what she just did. I think you should see her. And then because you booked it and you know what the hell is going on and that the character works on you, you tend to then book more. Like that's how the momentum is made. So just so you know, that's about what I would spend when I was doing workshops. And that was doing, I would say 2 to 4 a week is essentially what I was doing in terms of workshops. And when I started really doing them properly, I would say, I was probably getting called in about that much. And I would say I wasn't booking yet still. It took me like a second. But I think I did them probably at that level for 3 years before I really started then booking. In doing that volume of workshops, even these people that maybe 7 that brought you in but haven't brought you in repeatedly, that can simply be a symptom actually of their show is on hiatus, or they got moved to another location, or like things like that happen. And you have to sort of track them more. And a large percentage of the relationships that I have now with people that are like casting directors is people that I was doing workshops with 10 years ago. And my career grew, their career grew, I got better, they got better, I got better jobs, they got better jobs. And now like casting knows me. And I can tell you for a fact, we're in the workshops I used to do all the time, there was always like 2 to 3 of us that would do them nonstop. And those are the people that are working.
I'm sure this is just a mindset sort of problem, but like that does feel like they're worth doing sometimes. Some are great and I learn stuff. Some feel like people are just collecting a check or whatever. But like, it does feel like, oh, relationships in this business are things I've bought.
Yeah, but I think it's naive to think that's not true in every business. Like, I think relationships are bought.
Relationship.
Well, no. Even family, like you have to fly back home. You invest time, energy, and money into every relationship. And in business relationships, absolutely they are fucking paid for. And I think what you had said about how you kind of felt like some of them are bullshit essentially because they're just there to get a paycheck and some of them actually care. I also want to say that's exactly what they experience when they get auditions. That they get a slew of fucking auditions and they feel like a lot of the people just didn't show up and they just turned on their fucking camera and pretended to learn lines and were like, I'll get this fucking audition done. Fuck you. And a lot of people really showed up to give generously. And so I would say to everyone listening who feels that, it's like, right, that's the sifting process. Everyone has their days. You're like on your day 1 of vacation and you booked out and then they still give you a fucking tape and you're pissed about it and you don't want to do it and you just think everyone can go fuck themselves, but you can't say no because it's a really great role and you will be back in town for this. Just like that might come in through in your audition. You'll have casting directors who will have days where they just like got shat on by the producers. You know, nobody was ready. This one role, they finally solved it, but then that actor booked a commercial and decided to pull out at the last minute. Like, that's their life too.
Yeah.
And it takes years of proving your value over and over and over again before you are like a reliable asset. Any brand has relationships to build that grow into an audience that then grows into a consumer base. And that's any product. You know how in class, like you'll do a scene or something and then everyone will love it. And then you'll go take that same scene to a workshop and it's kind of like crickets. And you're like, what happened? I thought I was brilliant on Tuesday and now it's Saturday and everyone acts like I don't know what I'm doing.
And so a lot of that is brand recognition in that your classmates like you already. So their expectation of you being wonderful is already there. And that's why they like to cast name actors in things. Because if you cast somebody you don't know, the movie has to work a lot harder. If you cast Paul Rudd, I just like him.
Yeah.
You don't have to work to get me to like the character because I already like Paul Rudd. And so that's what's happening with relationships, is that if you give somebody your work a few times, then they're recognizing that they like you. And they'll have the expectation next time that they like you. And they'll have the expectation next time that they like you. And then they got to move that up the ladder to their boss. And they got to like you.
Yeah.
But wait, Hayley, you fabulous haired goddess, you. Wait, I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by weaudition.com. That's weaudition.com. Promo code SelfTapeMay. How many times have I been on weaudition.com this week? I think like 4. I mean, I'm just always on WeAudition. Hayley and I, we talk about in this episode being ready before you go to your coach, and how she used to hear me say that and was like, oh God, Audrey, that's like a lot of work. And then when she started doing it, she was like, it's so much better. So how do you prepare for your coaching session before you meet your coach? WeAudition.com, promo code SelfTapeMay. Readers of all countries, all ages, all types. It's fantastic. Whatever you need, if you just need somebody to run a line or you actually need help understanding a theme, weaudition.com. Promo code SelfTapeMay. If you have a listener question, please call 667-ACTOR-70. That's 667-ACTOR-70 for all your listener question needs.
Hi, Audrey. This is Caitlin from LA. I'm calling in regards to getting more co-star roles. I know you've talked about this a little bit, but my agent is lovely, but obviously doesn't have much incentive to send me out on anything below guest star and series regular, which I love in theory, but I don't have the credits in co-star roles to really feel like I'm competitive in those higher levels. I'm currently working on updating my reels, but I feel like even with that, I just don't have the resume yet. So what should I do to build up my resume if my agent isn't sending me on those co-star roles and those aren't really things I can go out for on my own? I mean, do I need to downgrade my agent? Should I get a manager that will send me on those things? I know they won't really have incentive either. Yeah, I'm just hoping you can maybe give me some advice on what I can do myself to give myself the best chance possible in the level that my agent keeps trying to send me to. Thanks so much. I love your podcast. It gives me life and joy, and I look forward to hearing your answer. Thanks.
Hey, girl, hey. You know, I don't really know why everyone suddenly feels like they want a lot of co-stars or any co-stars. Like, the greatest thing to happen would be for you to never get a co-star and you just skip that phase. Now, if you're just not auditioning, that's a different story. If you have very good reps and they're getting you auditions for guest star and above, please don't downgrade your agent. Please don't do that. You can add a manager to the team. Depending on who your manager is, they may or may not be interested in you getting co-stars. Like, no agent or rep is like, I can't wait for you to get co-stars. And the ones that do, like, I don't know that that's where you want to park yourself for very long. So sounds to me like what you actually have is an execution issue, not an audition issue. So if you're auditioning and you're not getting pinned, you're not getting called back into the office, you're not getting like avail checks, you're not getting calls like they really loved it, but they offered it out, things like that, then that to me is an execution issue, not a resume issue. And I strongly encourage you to take note in this episode, the discussions that Hayley and I are having about making sure that you execute competitively and setting that up along the way. Another way that you might get co-stars, if this is something of interest to you, is just workshops. You know, they'll bring you in for co-stars from workshops. So if you're doing casting director workshops, that's a great way to get called in directly to a co-star. Is your agent turning them down? I don't know. I know that this is a conundrum a lot of people feel, but if you have a rep that believes in you and is setting your financial bar high by not getting you co-star auditions, that's probably because they believe through evidence of what they know about the industry that you could book higher. They don't want you sitting on their roster. No agent wants their talent sitting on their roster. They want you to book and get off because you're out shooting. So all my agents are like, nobody wants an actor just sitting on their roster. So I would focus more on execution, being competitive, and less on chasing co-stars. Believe in yourself as much as your agent does. I dare you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I was able to work my job from home during the pandemic. I am very lucky, but like, I think of all the money I spent over 20 and 21. I got headshots 4 times, like twice in 20 when my hair first grew, but it wasn't really hair yet. And twice this year. So, there's all those costs associated with that. I used Buckley this year so that, more coaching workshops. I did some real shoot scene in one of these. It's just so much money. Like, I need the things and I could afford it, but it's a lot. And that is demoralizing, I think, for a lot of us.
It should be. I mean, I remember it making me fucking angry, honestly. And I get to new places. And here's like the really exciting news I have for you. It only gets extremely more expensive.
Great. Love that.
The time, energy, and money it takes to be competitive. Not to be good, not to exist, but to fucking compete. Yeah. And it sucks because there are people out there who have pretty unlimited time, energy, and money to put towards their career. And a lot of people are second generation. Like, just imagine, everyone, if I was your mom, you would just have started working by like age 7.
Yeah.
And that's the benefit of being second generation. And the fight to stay relevant, the cost of staying relevant, the cost of getting relevant and the cost of staying relevant is just, unfortunately, basic business.
Right. I mean, I don't even think I have an attitude about it. I know how I approach workshops. I can, at the moment, afford it. Great. And so I don't mind doing it. Sometimes they're fun.
Yeah. Oh, can I give you a tip?
Yeah.
To make them always fun? I really recommend that everybody have like 5 to 10 scenes that are all kind of different moods. And have a few that are like, fuck this, you can all go fuck yourself. Because a lot of times workshops are so demoralizing. I used to go in and I used to think like, fucking Christ, like, they're like 5 workshops of 5 different casting directors here at 10. There's going to be another 5 different casting directors at 1 and another 5 different casting directors at 4. And that's just this workshop place multiplied by all the workshop place. And I just used to think like, what are we fucking doing here? So just everyone knows, it's totally, if Audrey feels that way, then you all definitely feel that way. And the way I got around it and started really getting called in was I had a few scenes that were like, what are we even fucking doing here? They were so jaded and they were so fucking over it and so like give upness was the general just tone of the character. And sometimes I would book a commercial and I'd have a workshop today and I'd feel like I can take over the world. And so I'd have a scene where I felt like I can take over the world. But I was always acting congruent to how I felt. And I was using the workshop scene as a way to express how I felt today. And then the feedback was always like, Audrey, your work was always so honest. Like, I just really get a sense of you and like who you are. And it's just really so refreshing and not a bunch of acting, just like really you. And I was like, you're welcome. So if that's helpful.
Yeah, well, it is. I don't have a fuck this type of scene, so that's on the list now. But like, I do have a few that are like, yeah, I'm going to pull this one out. You'll all love it.
Yeah. Over these last few years, is there anything that in particular you wanted to talk to me about today?
Yes. So Here's a new champagne problem I encountered this year, which is one of the auditions I got, which was big. I still have the mindset, like, I'm not going to book a series regular. I have nothing on my resume. But I got an audition for that. That was 3 pretty substantial scenes and like an insane turnaround, like a weekend. That came like on a Friday night. And it was an office that not my own relationship, but my rep's relationship had brought me in a couple times before for stuff that was like right in the pocket for me, like so good, loved it. And so I was like, great, another audition from this office. Regardless of all those details, I hated the role. And I don't think I've been there. Like, who am I to like turn away something so huge, whatever, that like I could not get into it at all. I hated the character. I hated the overall like idea of the story. I just hated it. And the work was bad. What do you do? Like, what do you do?
Yeah. Here's what I would say. I love this conversation. In the beginning, if it's a larger role, especially, your job is to make the bad material outstanding. So tell me why you hated this character.
So it was like the lead of this show. And I think if she had been like the antagonist, she would have been great because she seemed like terrible. And I know there are shows where everyone's terrible, but I don't think it knew that it was that. And the overall script, or the parts of it that I had, which was a pretty big chunk of it, I'll be shocked if it actually does get made. It seems like it would have been made in 2004, and it has not come up with the times, kind of like just a lot of, ooh, we don't talk like that anymore. But for a real network, a legit thing. But, I haven't heard it. I haven't seen any updates, like casting deadline, anything about it. I wonder if it will come out. But just like, so I think in my head, I was like, maybe if I think of myself as like a villain, I can like do it justice kind of, but that really wasn't what it wanted.
Listen, I really do think it's fine to call your reps. We're setting the cultural narrative in theatrical storytelling. If you really feel like if you got this role, you would hate yourself, then I do think it's good to call your agents and say, listen, I don't know if you've read this, but I think it's kind of really racist. And I just don't know that I can do this. And I know it's a series regular, and I know I have no business passing up on a series regular. I think right now that is a well-received thing because it shows that you have integrity and it shows that you don't want to be racist, which I think is great.
Not even just that, because like, of course there's things in which there's horrible characters because there's horrible people in the world. And I'm not opposed to like playing that. I don't know. Okay.
I really think that because it got to you, I think your instincts were probably really right on. And that a lot of people probably felt that way. And that's why it went down the pyramid so much.
Oh, it just, like, everything about it was like, God, I shouldn't have even sent it in. Like, it just wasn't good resulting. Like,
I think you can also say that.
Was I ever going to think it was good? Because even if I could, like, shut off my judgment and do it, then I had to watch it.
I don't know of a story of somebody who hated material and then booked it. I actually have not heard that story. It may be because they booked it and then they got famous from it, and so they weren't going to tell people that, like, they actually thought it was bullshit in the beginning. But I don't personally know of anyone that's done that, and I know a lot of actors.
All right, and then I have a quick, just like bookkeeping sort of question, which is, yes, I track all my auditions. It's great. Then, ultimately I want to go back and see who booked it. And sometimes there's just unfindable data. It's hard to know. I assume some stuff just gets cut. And if the episode has aired, I can watch the episode and see like, oh yeah, there was no bartender or whatever. Although sometimes it's reworked in such a way, it's hard to like, well, maybe that patron was kind of the bartender role, so is there a way to collect this data? Because like, I do think it's useful to see like, I auditioned for X, didn't get it, who got it? Like what's their performance? But there's a lot of like, my tracker of 42 things this year is mostly empty, even stuff from like the first half of the year that would have come out by now. Or
things are taking about a year and change to come out. especially if it's streaming video on demand. I mean, if it's The Rookie, like, you'll be able to watch it in 3 weeks. But in terms of anything streaming, even network now, most people aren't doing 22 episodes. They're doing 13. They're taking their time. They're taking the whole year to write it, and then they're shooting 13 episodes. And I have found that I'm just now seeing stuff that I auditioned for in like September 2020. So like a year and change later. I'm just now seeing it. So it is one of the more frustrating things about auditioning for streaming as opposed to network television is it's usually less of an instant feedback. But my prediction for you is you're doing these workshops. You're going to continue to do this for another year or two, at least. And you're going to start booking some jobs. And all of this data that you're waiting to collect is a really important part of it. You'll understand story more because we have the tapes now. So you'll look at what you did. You'll look at the actor did that booked the job. And then you'll be able to see like, oh, they were really angry. And I definitely didn't do it angry. Oh, I see. You needed anger because we have to think this person killed someone.
Yeah.
Okay. I was so excited that I got to cry about this thing that I forgot to be angry also.
Yeah.
That is going to help you book more regularly.
Well, yes, I do know why it's useful and I want it. I just can't see it yet.
You can't. It's going to take I think it's going to take another 6 months for you to start seeing stuff. All right. Anything else, my sweet love darling?
Well, at the risk of, you watched some stuff of me now. What do you think?
I think your work has fucking gotten so good. I'm so proud of you. I mean, so everyone, she sent me a bunch of tapes and was basically like, these are ones I've gotten really good feedback on. Why haven't I booked? I'm just looking at the tapes now. Or why haven't they called me in? So these are casting people who gave her a lot of compliments and then didn't call her in for an audition. And some of them, it's hard for me to say because I don't know who the casting actor is, what they cast. I will say the only note that I felt like with your comedy that I would just say is just make sure that it's as personal as your drama. I feel like your comedy is staying a little bit surface and timing. And so you're sort of like playing the notes.
Yeah.
But particularly like in the Will and Grace one, you guys, she sent me a Will and Grace tape. I feel like that hits proficient, but I didn't laugh. Think of Will and Grace. Like they are upset all the time. Like they're just upset. And the Actors Comedy Studio, Gunnar over there, had an incredible book that I will plug. And it's called The Code of Comedy, I believe. And he talked to me about how everyone in a half hour is like a 13-year-old. That every emotion is just like so exacerbated the way you feel it when you're 13. And I watch The Office now and I'm like, right, you have like Jim and Pam who are like 15. And then you have like Michael who's like 7 to 9, like it's like various levels of maturity. And then people who are like Oscar who's like a fucking adult. And then it's like watching all these dynamics happen with these people. And if you think of Will and Grace, they're just so exasperated by like everything. So you guys, she's like standing in line because she's a fan of something. Like you are such a fangirl. You, Hayley, are such a nerdy fucking fangirl. And I was like, this is a perfect role for you because you're so fucking nerdy and excited about things. And I didn't get Hayley's like fucking standing in line for this thing that she's super fucking nerded out by. And she knows who this secret person is. And she's like fucking geeked out about it because they both love this thing the most. That's what's funny. Yeah. Even if the laughs don't come, it's fun to watch because we're watching somebody have a blast. And I felt in a lot of your comedies, you're still trying to play the music as opposed to playing the music and fulfilling it with what is uniquely exciting about you in the role. But otherwise, I thought your fucking monologue was really good. I thought your procedural was really fucking good. You're not waiting, which is what was happening in the beginning, is like your scenes would get there after 2.5 minutes. And now that we're watching you and the moment your tape comes on, you're like alive. And that's gonna cut through. The only thing I would have is that I think you just have to continue to remember like you're fucking nerdy, which you already said, which I think it's your ticket to the show when it can be like, even when you're serious and you're grounded, you're really fucking smart and diligent. I get like your diligence, and I get how smart you are, and I get a little bit of an underdog quality from you. What's so great about your headshots and your footage now is like, I think it is starting to err on this side of like, I think you're Firefly. I don't think you're
Altered Carbon.
Yeah. I don't know that I'm casting you right now in Altered Carbon. Like, when you think of Altered Carbon, what do you think of?
Yeah, Joel Kinnaman or whatever. He's Fly.
Joel Kinnaman is so fucking cool. Joel Kinnaman is like made himself famous by being a little creepy, still a giant.
Again, some of these things where they like didn't really meet you and just give you written feedback, I think there's less of a thing established anyway. They didn't really meet us. But like, one of the people used such words that I was like, those are the words I want to hear about, like, she was interesting and strong and I want more. Like,
I don't disagree. Like, I thought it was great, but I also was like, I don't know if that's the casting director for Altered Carbon, because if you did great work on Altered Carbon for the casting director of Altered Carbon,
right,
I still don't know that I'm bringing you in for Altered Carbon.
Right.
Does that make sense to you?
Yeah. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
For most of these, I think probably everything I sent you was ones where we saw everybody's feedback.
Mm-hmm.
So I at least have the comparison of they weren't nice to everybody.
Yeah.
You know, there was a lot of negative stuff.
Yeah.
So I'm looking for my negative stuff. Like, what's the note I can take and do differently so you bring me in?
Yeah, I mean, with the Altered Carbon, I don't disagree with what they said. And why they didn't call you in can be any number of things. I mean, literally, you guys, I did a workshop with somebody. It was a 3-weeker. She and I really loved each other. By the end of the final week, I got this really hard scene. And she goes, Audrey, that was a really hard scene. And I was like, oh, thank God you know that, because it was. And she was like, yeah, no, it was great, though. At that time, she didn't have power to call anyone in. And then she got promoted on a new show. And her very first role that she had for me after her promotion, she called me in and I booked, but it was well over a year later.
Yeah.
And so you just can't know that.
I do think there is still a me in sci-fi world.
I love you in sci-fi.
Somewhere else in sci-fi than that scene.
Well, let me ask you, if you're going to be cast in Firefly or you're going to be cast in Altered Carbon, which one do you automatically put yourself in?
Yeah, Firefly for sure.
Like 1,000 times.
Yeah.
And it's not to say that you won't do Altered Carbon in terms of like that kind of sci-fi, like moody, dark, cool sci-fi. You'll age, you'll do, like, I'm getting moody, cool, dark shows now. I've aged into it.
Yeah.
So like it happens. I just want to be very clear. I think you're fantastic for sci-fi. And one of the notes I had was how excited I am for you in sci-fi. But almost all sci-fi is cast and shooting in Vancouver. And in order to get those roles, your resume has to be at a certain level. And so you're looking at booking a couple of larger size roles locally in order to then even get the audition, to then have them fly you out, to then house you in Vancouver for even like a recurring or a guest lead.
Yeah. So book roles. Yes, I know that's been the goal.
My favorite. It's my favorite. When casting directors will be like, what's the best way to come in? I mean, be on a show I already like and I watch. And it's like, great. Yeah, no, I get it. Listen, you are working remarkably properly. And I just want to like give you some perspective because you're notoriously really hard at taking wins. You have a 400% increase in quality theatrical auditions. And you did that in the middle of a fucking pandemic, which is really crazy. You have representation that is of a quality that you can get that now, and that's growth for you. And if you have the same kind of growth in the next 3 years as you've had in the last 3 years, that looks really good.
Yeah.
You know, you're having like a few callbacks, maybe some pins, some general really good feedback that's happening on this sort of larger scale. And those are going to turn into bookings. I mean, I feel so confident in this. If you keep going along this trajectory, then in 3 years, you are going to have a resume where you like look at it and you're like, oh shit, like I work. Just like how 3 years ago the idea of you getting these kinds of auditions seemed like an impossibility. The idea of you then getting multiple guest stars is likely a reality. And see, you would have had the exact same reaction 3 years ago.
Imagine.
You would have had the exact same reaction 3 years ago. And, most people don't work properly and don't work properly over time. They go in fits and spurts. And your not just focus, but your consistent focus over time is going to yield you results. Literally, if for no other reason than most people don't do that. Most people just don't. And just so proud of you. I mean, the growth in the work is tremendous. If you make the same kind of growth in your no auditions, just join the union, to lots of auditions, never getting called in from workshops, to getting called in from workshops, no understanding of story, to really understanding and delivering story through you. If you make that same kind of growth in the next 3 years, logically, that's going to be awesome.
Even coming on, I was like, well, I got nothing to report almost about anything that I can point to. I know I've been working, and yes, I can see the difference, but especially when it's end of year now, and you think about seeing people to say what have you done? I've done a fuckload, but you can't see it. You can't see.
Well, they can't, but they're also not qualified to really see. Yeah, so your aunt can't see it, and that's fine. That's okay. She'll see it in a few years when these relationships matched with skill and understanding turn into bookings, and they just simply will. I'm just not at all worried about it. And I think you're growing into your casting. And I just have to say, I've been admiring your hair this whole time. It looks fantastic. It's got layers. It's got volume. It looks really great on you. Your lighting is killing it right now. I'm just about it. It's great.
Thank you. Okay. Yes, I'm going to be a hair-having lady now.
Listen, it's not about either way. I didn't have a problem with short hair. Just for the record, I never had a problem with pixie hair. I didn't think the quality of cut of the pixie hair was as good as you could get.
Yes, for sure.
But I love the way
thanks. Wow, going out on a up hair note.
But wait, Hayley, you fabulous haired goddess, you. Wait, I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by Casting Networks /Audrey. That's Casting Networks /Audrey, promo code Audrey. Do you like to audition? Do you like to audition for jobs that will pay you? That your mother will see you on TV if you book, and she will be like, my child, we spent $35,000 a year on a conservatory education, and now they're on TV. It wasn't all for nothing. I'm so proud of you, my child. If that's the kind of response that you would like from your family, you got to get those real auditions. Casting Networks is the place to be. You can get $50 off your premium annual membership at castingnetworks.com/Audrey, promo code Audrey. Please save money. Please save money. Please do it. I just want us all to save money. That's all I want. If you have a listener question, please call 667-ACTOR-70. That's 667-ACTOR-70 for all your listener question needs.
Hi, Audrey. Longtime listener, first-time caller. And actually, I have to interrupt you talking to what I'm sure is a fan favorite guest. My name is Hayley. I believe we're talking right now, but I'm calling from the future to give you a little update about how my year is going. I know that we talk a lot in this episode about my numbers and how my audition numbers really improved, and over last year, 2021, they really did a huge percentage raise, and that is exciting. And I was looking at it, and I felt like it was a good year, and I didn't book anything in 2021, and I still felt like it was a good year. So far this year, we're in May, Self-Tape May of 2022, I have booked 4 theatrical jobs. So Yeah, I've booked 4 theatrical jobs. So just this little update. Most recently, this past week, I don't think I can say that much about it, but I will just say I had a pretty substantial role in a indie feature film that's a comedy, and I'm really excited about it. So that's just my little update. I've also worked a couple of voiceover jobs, and I will honestly say that my numbers of auditions are less, but my bookings are much higher. And I guess I can't complain, because that just means the percentages are real good right now. So the year's going great. So it is Self-Tape May. I'm in the midst of it as this episode is airing, and you tell me in this episode that we're speaking in to work on series regulars, and I am now. And I'm working on things, basically how to make the time for multiple scene, longer pieces multiple times a week. So I am working on that, and it's work, but it is great, and I'm enjoying the whole thing. And well, I'll let you get back to the show and tell me how much you like my hair.
Hayley girl, thanks for the update. I told you were going to book. I told you, just a matter of time. I'm so proud of you. I'm so happy for you. Also, the fact that you're getting less auditions but more bookings, that your ratio is higher, is an indication that you are working properly, because it means that now casting directors and your reps know what you're right for. So you're, instead of getting like shot out of a cannon and seeing what like sticks on the wall, they're actually like pointing an arrow at a target, and then you're landing it into the bullseye, getting bookings. So congratulations. I'm just so proud of you.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I would love for you to end on, for those listening in Self-Tape May, what do you have for them about self-tape practice?
So there's no week that goes by without me doing at least 3 tapes, I would say. Hopefully more, but not always. I know there's someone, I will say, that you post all the time who's like done 16 every month since whatever. That's incredible, but that's great.
Get it, girl. Yeah.
That is what it takes. Like, if you're not getting the volume of auditions you want. And for me, I had to also enjoy some of the other parts, like the technical parts, especially on Zoom, like a workshop where everyone is using their webcam and my setup is a little bit nicer. Clear. I just feel a little more confident in like they're gonna see what I'm delivering, because that's not everybody's possibility. But like, I could have been getting a better result out of my phone as well, and I wasn't, and I just like resented it. And like, it was like exposure always fucked up. Like my tapes from 2019 for Self-Tape May were bad in technical quality. Like they were, I have them all and they're just like, oh, it's hard to see. I'm not using the frame very well. Mm-hmm. So liking all of that stuff really helped. And you only get to do that by doing a lot of tapes. Mm-hmm. And like playing with frame, I love now. You said one about like, oh, I should have turned more to camera in one of those. And I was like, yeah, definitely. That's a few months old now. Like this bitch wouldn't do that anymore. And I like, the limitations of a self-tape in a lot of ways, and being able to like be your own director, which I didn't care about probably at the beginning. So that's all personal to me. Like, enjoy every part of the process. Like, don't think of it as work. I am lucky that I have just enough space where I live to leave my like light and camera set up all the time. Yeah. That helps a lot. I know everybody can't, but like it's already there. There's no additional impediments to doing some work every day or every week or whatever. And I don't know who wouldn't benefit from it, really.
100%.
I plan on doing it every year that it's going on, really, in May, like, because the timing is good for like keep the train moving if nothing's coming in or whatever.
Right. That's why it's in May.
So I love that like every year when it's done, I do think like, well, I'm going to hide all of these garbage things. But it is nice to see the growth, but it is painful to share it publicly. But I know for Self-Tape May, everyone doesn't have to be publicly posting theirs anyway.
And that's great. Yeah, I love it. I have an assignment for you.
Right.
Okay, great. So my assignment for you, based off of our conversation, is to start working weekly series regular size roles. And it's because I find that if you shoot for really big, then you feel really prepped and easy for the smaller stuff. And the stuff you're doing in workshops is nice, usually like a nice chunk scene, but prepping for getting 3 of those, a series regular, they usually are giving you 2 to 4 really meaty scenes to go to work on. Yep. And a way that you can do that is to simply just choose a character and work on them for the week. And so you start getting used to how you best prepare for a large quantity audition. So that way you're preparing for where you're going and not for where you're at. Okay.
You know, it's so funny. I rescheduled it because of us meeting now, but a friend of mine who I tape with, you know, just as a practice pretty regularly, he was like, oh, I did this in a class and I think it's a great part for you. And it is a like huge role. It's like 3 scenes, but I think you could do it all. And we would have worked on it today, but I wasn't ready. And I was like putting it off and I was like, this seems hard.
Yeah.
But like, clearly that's where the work gotta go.
Yeah. When I think about what feels hard, I always try to tell people, like, go slower. Like, instead of trying to do it in the 2-day window that you often get series regulars, do it in a week. Yeah. And then go back to it if you want to. So do it, you know, if you're going to do, say, 8 weeks of tape practice, do it week 1 and then again do it on week 6. Yeah. So that you're sort of seeing what you missed, but it'll train your brain to look for those opportunities again. Like, oh, I see, I missed this thing and I missed that thing. And now that I have some space from it, it's that, you know, and that's how you're going to get better at those quality auditions, so that hopefully what would be fucking great is you get roles that maybe your resume doesn't qualify you for, but you're ready and your tape itself qualifies you to be in the running. And even if you don't book it, everyone will take note.
Yeah, love it, love it.
Love it. Okay, great. What do you wish somebody had taught you or managed to get you to understand when you were just a wee babe doing self-tape practice in the beginning?
I mean, story's the big one that we've talked about a ton. Like, young Hayley did not know that she didn't know it. Like, I know it's like annoyingly broken record to keep going there, but like, the whole goal for me the first year I did it was complete 16, and it was a challenge. And so like, my level has upped from there to be doing more than that in a month. Like, so I don't know that young self-tape practicer would have even been ready for that I just couldn't accomplish 16. Yeah. But, you know, you always want the timeline to move a little faster and things to come to you. Even though I wasn't ready then, I could totally see it. But like, yeah, I think work on story.
What is the best part about a self-tape practice?
Seeing improvement. When I know it's wrong watching a tape of myself, I can like, even if I don't know exactly where to like, how to fix it exactly yet, I can see like right here, something's missing. That's helpful. Like eventually to not feel so reliant on like a coach for every single thing because I am my own director and I understand it so well, not out of a financial need, but like really just you can direct yourself because you're watching the footage.
You're used to watching story and evaluating yourself from that place. Yeah. I love that. What is the worst part about a self-tape practice?
Learning all the tech shit if you don't like that at all. I know a lot of actors don't like technical anything, stuff. You know, that's why they're actors.
Right.
And so I know that's like a frustrating hurdle at the beginning. I got over that a little bit. I like some of that side stuff now. I like doing stuff with light. I haven't mastered it, but like, it's interesting to like play with that and make your own tiny film, you know? Yeah. So that can be a bad part. Watching yourself is still hard, I think. It's hard to be objective about yourself. You know what you were thinking and doing. Being the one to select is still hard about self-taping in general as auditions instead of being able to go in a room where they decide, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. What does success look like to you?
In life, I'm already successful.
Yeah.
Honestly, it's cheesy, but like the pandemic has kind of showed me that like I know a lot of like couples broke up and roommate situations were bad. And I didn't have that. I'm very fortunate in many ways. The ability to be able to be working on this all the time means I have achieved a level of success in my life for myself, I think. So I don't know, that's a lame answer, but
No, it's beautiful.
Yeah, I obviously success would have anything recognizable on my resume.
Okay, good. That's the next level of success. I'm not worried about it. I'm excited for your email. You'll send it to me. I'm ready for it.
But wait, Hayley, you fabulous haired goddess, you. Wait, I have to interrupt you.
Help me. I need some help.
And now it's time for listener questions.
I'm so scared.
This listener question is brought to you by castability.actor/self-tape-may. That's castability.actor/self-tape-may. I am loving these castability scenes that you guys are posting. If you want to have some free sides, download the castability.actor app. And in 24 hours, they're going to send you 20 free sides so that you can just have some sides to work on. And people are having such a good time. Shout out to Erin Eva Butcher, who did a fantastic castability actor scene. You'll see it on my page. She is wrapped in a scarf and a coat, and she is so fantastic. I hope you go all the way with that tape. What happens is you can post them on Instagram, or if you want to submit them to the castability service, what that does is you submit the tape, and then a casting director ranks you 1 through 5, and then the person who gets the highest score goes to the next casting director, and they get ranked 1 through 5, and then those 5s then go to the next casting director until we have a top 5 and we have a winner, and that winner gets posted, they get acknowledged, you get seen by casting directors. They have a great deal going right now at castability.actor/self-tape-may. You're getting the sites for free anyway, so if there's one that you really love that you think you did really great on, submit it on their app. I dare you. If you have a listener question, please call 667-ACTOR-70. That's 667-ACTOR-70 for all your listener question needs.
Hi, Audrey. This is Jay from Texas. I'm just starting out as a developing actress, and I had the opportunity to get picked up by an agency. The problem or the dilemma that I'm facing with right now is that obviously as a newbie, non-union, I need to get started somewhere, but I'm still holding on to my day job for obvious reasons. I don't want to quit my day job for something that statistically may not be financially fruitful, because I'm not in a privileged spot right now where I can just quit my day job and just pursue this. My question is, how should I go about speaking to agents? Because my agent had said that he is not interested in hobbyists, but he was very aware that I have a full-time job. So I'm kind of trying to balance. Obviously, I don't want to piss off my employer, but at the same time, my agent's saying I'm not interested in hobbyists, which probably means I need you to be available whenever there's a callback or a booking. Love to hear what you think. Thanks. Love you. Bye.
Blech, I hate this agent. Ew. Ew. I strongly feel like, how dare you be an agent in a local market that doesn't have a ton of production happening? Texas, not exactly giving out those series regular, make a great living roles. So I pretty much feel like, ooh, I think that's a manipulative move. A communication that I think would be a great move is, I understand that this is a local market and we don't have tons of opportunities for actors to be making the amount of money they need to make in a year to support themselves solely off of acting. And I also understand not everyone is in a situation of wealth. However, I expect and desire from my actors on my roster to behave as professionally as possible in a manner that brings this market up to series regular standard so that we can all together rise and be making as a market some serious cash. So I expect, and my intention is to have a roster with you included, where you take this job of acting, as seriously as you take your day job. I understand you have to have a day job. I get that. But when auditions come, I need them turned in on time. When you book a job, I need you to be able to be at that job no matter what's happening at work, because I have a reputation to casting and casting has a reputation to production, and we're trying to capture some work in this market. That would be a communication I would love for an agent to have. But telling you that they don't do hobbyists, they don't sign, they don't work with hobbyists, I don't love that in this particular situation. I don't love it. So I think what this agent was trying to say was they want to make sure that you are professional, and you just tell them, thank you so much. I take this pursuit very seriously. Of course, I have a day job because I don't have enough money off of acting yet to pay all of my bills as an actor, but I am investing fully. And thanks to my day job, I'm allowed to do that. And I do have flexibility both financially and in time and energy to fully dedicate whatever is needed for this career and for the growth of this career. That's what I would communicate. Get it?
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
You want to plug your social media?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram at Hayleywood, which is spelled HAYLEYWOULD. It's very funny. I'm also on We Audition, and I know a lot of people have found me on there. Obviously, there's tons of great people on there, but I really love reading for people, and it's been great. So I'm on We Audition. You'll see me come up with a little purple and orange looking headshot.
Good.
So I'm loving that. Those are the only two things I use.
Wonderful. And then Mildly Interesting.
Okay. So this is a little bit, I guess, capitalist, but I bought these things. And for anyone who travels a lot, I think they're worth it. They're a little pricey, but I kept being advertised them on Instagram, which you never really know if those are like real,
Scammy.
legit businesses. Yeah. This one's real and I love it. So they're called Cadence capsules. They're for travel. They're magnetic. And they're like hexagonal, I think, like they all stick to each other and you put your liquids in them. They do not leak. And so it's to eliminate, those travel containers you buy to like decant all your cosmetics or face wash, whatever into. So they're for that. They're so good. They don't leak and they're a little expensive, but it's with the idea that you don't need to ever buy any more like stuff that goes and fills a landfill. And I think they divert like ocean-bound plastic. So they are good for the environment and in a couple of ways because you'll own them for life. I love them. I think they're great.
I'm gonna look them up. I'm excited. My Mildly Interesting for everybody is these yoga pants I'm going to post online. I discovered that they've made yoga pants that have like pockets in the seams on the sides. And you're talking about like travel. You guys, I went to Massachusetts and every single person on the crew was wearing these yoga pants. And I was like, I just found out about them like a year ago. And I wonder, like, does everyone else know? And I just didn't know. But I've since given them to so many people for their birthdays. And so they're like old school, like boot cut yoga pants that you just like feel like you're wearing pants / yoga. And they're like these triangle seams on the sides that don't add any width so that if you're self-conscious about your outer thighs, like you're not going to see any width issues here. And it's like when I'm traveling or really doing anything, I put my phone in there. It's like, it's pockets, like as women, men don't understand this. Women, we're just like fucked when it comes to pockets. And I don't always want it on the back. And I also feel like sometimes that's dangerous to have stuff on your butt back pocket. So not butt back pocket, but the sides. And they have them in petites and super talls. Like my mom is 6'1", legit got her some that actually are long enough for her. So I give this to you, blessings, everyone. I will post them in the show notes. Yoga pants, you guys. Yoga pants and cadence capsules. I'm about it. Let's consume.
Great.
Well, listen, I'm so proud of you. I know it's been a long haul, but it's just is whatever time it takes for whoever it takes it for. And just remember that the majority of the people that I know who really came out swinging, everyone I know that like really started like bam, 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 working in their like 20s right when they got here, they've all quit. They're done. And that's not a bad thing. But the people that I know who really started working in their 30s are all the ones like working now. Like these are the people who are part of the 3% who make a living out of acting. And I think it's because a lot of the people who got their success right off the bat, if they hadn't had that success right off the bat, they would have quit after a few years anyway. And so it's just that they had their success and then kept chasing it and then left, which is encouraged and fine. But the people who solved these issues and worked through their passion and their grit and problem solving and relationship building over time, of course, like anything, that's the thing that lasts. And those are the people who really have the really robust careers. So, in some years better than other years, but over time, they are the working actors.
Well, great.
Yeah.
Can't wait to join
I know.
them.
And listen, I felt the same way when I was in your shoes. But honestly, when you came a few years ago, I felt like you were just really eager, but lacked, I would say, the refinement in your work. And now you still have your eagerness matched with, I would say, like a maturity of perspective and also a refinement in your work. So I'm not worried about it. And you know that if I was, I would tell you. I would be like, hey.
Oh, I know. I know. I almost, didn't even want to ask, like, hey, what did you think?
My stuff?
Yeah.
I agree with that.
But that was very lovely to hear. Thank you.
No, really, truly. So adore you. Congratulations on all of the growth. And I'll see you again in Self-Tape May.
Thank you.
Next week on Audrey Helps Actors, one of my favorite actors, we've got Tom Choi. He's so great. And we recorded him pre-pandemic and things were really hard. He'd had a hard year or two. And let me tell you, things turn around for Tom. And don't you want to hear about somebody going through a dry spell and then having things turn around? Doesn't that sound great? So listen to next week's episode, Tom Choi. Thanks to Hayley. Hayley, I love you so much. I am rooting for you, girl. I just think like the universe brought us together so that, we could just like go on this journey and I could watch you just like bloom into the most awesome, like I feel like, is she a flower? I feel like she's like a blossoming cactus, like edge, but also you kind of want to hug it, but like you're also like, I don't know, it looks like it's soft and fluffy and has flowers on it, but I think it's a little spiky. That's what I feel like you are. Love and adore you. This episode was mixed and mastered by Thomas Hank Snodgrass, produced and edited by Jesse Lumen. Still so handsome, everyone. It's been a hard couple years, and I have to say, he's managed to get even handsomer. This episode was edited by Taylor Martirana, show music by Ari De Niro, and theme song by Alok Mehta and 108 Hill. All right, everyone, don't forget your towel.